Important thing and why this distinction is so important is because I say over and over again that mental health and people in general trust emotions too much. Your emotions are not a good guide to reality. And yet so much in mental health, like there's a lot of things in mental health that I'm very upset with because I feel like we're misleading people. But that's one of the big ones, is to trust your gut, trust your emotions, talk about your emotions, et cetera, because, I mean, have you ever heard the adage to sleep on it or to count to 10? Like those are things that where this recognition, this kind of old school recognition that the in the moment emotional experience oftentimes is overblown.
Right.
Because it's overblown from evolution because it needs to be to get you to survive. But these days when we have these overblown emotions and we have this other notion that we should trust it, then we act very much in our not in our best interest.
Right. Isn't there maybe some gray area in there in which we hear, again, maybe differentiate between the signal and the noise, where like you feel something and sometimes, yeah, that is a signal that you should listen to because perhaps a person you're near or an environment you're in, there's something off and there's something in your gut that you should listen to. But then other times, let's say like you're super anxious about getting on stage and giving a speech and you're almost terrified. Like there is no clear and present danger there. You're just scared of being judged by your peer group, and this isn't something that we need to really listen to. Is that a fair distinction?
Yeah, right. The first thing you're talking about, that intuition, that's actually a cognitive process and not an emotional process. Like there's a lot of research going into that. There's something, for example, called micro-expressions. Have you ever come across that?
Sure.
Yeah. So we're learning more and more that we pick up on things at a deep cognitive level that we're not even aware of. So if you meet somebody and you have a reaction to them and you think this person's bad news, you might be kind of framing it as an emotional, but what actually happened is that you process at a cognitive level that, for example, the person's verbal presentation doesn't match their facial presentation. Like that's a big one for people. If a person's, you think, well, there's something wrong. This guy's trying to get something from me, or they're trying to, deceive me somehow. But you have a bad feeling about that, but its origins are from this cognitive processing that we're not aware of. The stage example is a good one because your in-the-moment reaction to that scenario is at such a heightened level that sometimes people do have those panic reactions. They're not even able to go on stage because from an evolutionary perspective, you're experiencing that at the level of a survival threat. Like, I need to get out of here. And that's why we need to start changing that, the how much we trust that emotion and maybe figuring out ways to reduce that in the moment emotional sensation or experience because they are misleading us about what actually is important.
That's great because I really do think there's a lot of space in the general media about this gray area, whereas there, like some people will say, fuck your feelings. Other people will say, only listen to your feelings. And I think what you're saying is, and the reason why I really like the book is that like there is a middle ground here where like some feelings, yes, they are very important because maybe they come from intuition, but I would say we experience intuition as a feeling, but then other ones we can kind of sit with ourselves and say like, oh no, this is just an alarm bell that maybe I should learn to quiet. I really wish more people were giving